So welcome back from our previous video where we looked at how we can convert a registration to an admitted student. So we registered a student under registration, then we followed the admission procedure by making sure the student writes the entrance exam that has been defined in the system. Then we entered the marks the student obtained from the entrance exams. So now we are going to look at how we can open admissions and then how to manage those admissions. So before students can be admitted in the system, first of all, the school has to open admissions for any class that there is vacancy for. So to do that, still under the registration menu, in the menu section, you just come to open admission. So here we have a form. We are presented with a form. So we have the session. It is always the current session. So the session, you can think of the session as the academic year. The session is more likely can be compared to, like, let's say, the academic year. So it is always set to the default one. So you don't need to be worrying yourself changing it every now and then. So you select the class where there is that vacancy that you want to admit students to. So in our case, we are going to, let's say we have slots or space available in basic, let's say basic 2. So there is a code which is generated automatically. So the published date, the date in which this admission is going to be published. So we are currently opening admission for basic 2. So it should be live. It means that we can start taking admissions from this date. So when is it closing? So it means from the published date. If we decide to change the date to, let's say, a future date, like let's say 1st of June, it means that we can only start taking admissions into this class, that is basic 2, from the 1st of June. So I'm going to leave it as today's date, today being 13th. So when is admissions closing for this particular class? So we are going to close this admission, let's say, by the end of the term, or we can even do the end of the whole academic year. So if, let's say, this current term is going to end in, let's say, August, so we at 31st August, so we can assign that date. And then total seats, how many students are we admitting for this particular class? So currently, maybe the class can be able to accommodate up to 30 students. But currently, we have about, just say, 20 students in the class. So we have 10 more slots available to go. So you just have to enter the number, the total seats, like that. So the minimum age, are there any requirements? Let's say for this particular class, basic 2, what is the minimum age for before we can admit a student into this particular class? So the minimum age is always entered in months. It is entered in months. So let's say we are only allowing students who are 5 years and above into basic 2. So if you are below 5 years, that means you will not be allowed to be admitted into this particular class. So if we don't want to set that kind of limitation, we can just leave it blank. It means that we can admit, no matter your age, you can be admitted into this class. So what is the application form fee? So let's say if we are charging a fee, there is a fee to be charged for the admissions into this class. So you enter the amount. If there is none, if it is free too, you can just leave it as blank. So let's say we are taking 150 cedis for the form fee, then the registration fee. If there is any other registration fees to be paid, you can enter it here like that. So it means that the system can be linked with the school's website so that people can apply online. So it means that when they are applying, they will be required to make the payment before they are able to even do any other entries and stuff. So once the form is submitted online, they pay for the form. They pay for the form. So if we don't want to do that, we can just leave all these fields blank and then just save it. So there are other sections as well. So we have the required documents. So which documents are we requesting for this particular class? What documents do we require? So in this case, we can do, so we've already defined a document here, that is terminal report from previous school. If you want to add any other additional document you are going to request from the student, you can click on the plus sign. It gives you a form, so you can enter the name of the document. Let's say national ID card. So we've added a national ID card. So you can add an additional document to it. So here we are going to add the terminal report from previous school. So which of these documents is required? In the sense that if it is not submitted, you cannot proceed onto the admission process until this particular document is submitted. You cannot convert the registration into an admission. So here, let's say we are going to make terminal report a required document. So if we decide to leave this checkbox unchecked, it means that this particular document is not required. We can decide to skip it and admit the student directly. So there is a category section. So we can decide to, let's say, make this particular document a requirement for students who are or who fall into this category. So let's say their national ID card, or we can even change this to health insurance card. So we've changed the first document to health insurance card, and then we are going to make it a requirement for students who are seeking admission into the boarding house. So this terminal report from previous school will be a requirement for general. That is, general could be everybody or whoever is applying into, whether you are seeking admission as a day student or boarding student. You can also decide to forget it, but make it a required document. So no matter your category, you will still be required to submit it. So you can add additional document to it, as many documents as you want. So next, on the next tab, we have the registration fees. You can add any other fees to it. So let's say if you are seeking admission as a boarding student, if there is any fee that you have to pay as a registration fee, you just have to enter the amount here. Then is there any admission criteria which needs to be met before the student can be admitted? So you can click on the add criteria. So in this case, the student is supposed to take, let's say, an entrance exam for numeracy. And what is the maximum mark expected for numeracy? So you are expecting a total of 100 marks. You can add some additional. So let's say English literacy. The maximum marks allowed is 100%. Then they are also going to write an exam on which other subject? Let's say science. So it means that this, if we are admitting a student into this particular class, we selected Basic 2. Students who can be admitted into Basic 2 are supposed to write all these exams before being allowed to be admitted into that class. So test schedule. The test schedule, we can add dates whereby newly or students who are being admitted into this particular class will be given this particular date we define here to come and write their entrance exam. That is if we know the date. But for now, we don't know when students will be applying. So we can leave this side blank and then just save it. So it means that they can write the exam at any date we define for them earlier on. So okay, registration fee is required field. Registration fee. Okay, I think I've added one here, so I'll just delete this. I'll set it up later. Okay, so it means, so once it is saved, admissions has been opened for basic, I think basic 3. We selected basic 3. So you can come down here and then come to manage admissions. So currently, as you can see, we have admissions open for Nursery 1, and then it is also open for Basic 1. So we have the total seats. Alright, so when we come to manage admissions, we have all the classes which have admissions open. So we have Nursery 1 currently, and then Basic 1, and then Basic 3, which we just added. So Basic 3's admission was opened on 13th of May 2023, and it closes on 31st August 2023. So the total seats available for admission is 10. The form sale, how many seats or how many forms have been sold so far, the registration, how many have been registered, and then the total admissions, those that have been converted into admissions so far. You can track all of them here like that. So each of them, when you click on each of the sections, it gives you a detailed information about it. So you can click on the form sale number, the registration number, and then the admission number. It will give you more information about it. So that is it for opening admission, how you can open admissions in your school. So any class that has vacancy available for admissions, you need to come to the registration section, open admissions, and then you add a new slot like what we did earlier for each class before you can admit students into that particular class. Okay, so that brings us to the end of registrations. I think there are two other ways we will look at under student profile. That one is also under admissions, admitting new students into the school. So I think that before we end the video, let's talk about it before we end the video. And the next time, in our next video, we will look at the student profile itself. So here, admitting students goes through a lot of processes. First, at times it begins with let's say an inquiry. An inquiry is captured, we do follow-ups, then we convert that that inquiry into registration. So once that registration process has been done, the student is made to take the entrance exam. Those results are captured in the system before the registration is now converted into an admitted student. So all these processes, in some schools, they can decide to admit a student directly without having to go through all these processes, in the sense that a director's child that is not required to go through all these various processes. So in that case, you just have to come to the student profile, and then you locate the new admission. Here you can admit a student directly into the school without going through all the previously defined processes we've looked at. So here, on the new admission form, you can just fill out the information straight away like that. It will not ask for any previous let's say, the previous documents we are requiring from them. So it's the same form as we saw earlier under when we were converting a registration to an admission. So it's the same form. So we have the admission details, the personal details, guardians, siblings, contact details, then all the other information like that. So the documents required here, you can even decide to forget any of them. So you can take off any document that is not you don't want to attach. And then we have the next one. We have quick admission. The quick admission and the new admission works the same way. But the only difference here is that the quick admission gives you just limited information to fill. So if you can see from the quick admission form, there are no tabs. There are no additional tabs here that is asking for some additional information. So we only have just one form to fill. So you can just use this form to admit a student quickly into the system, and then later on you can come back and then edit it, and then we capture the other information. So as you can see on the quick admission form, when I click on the new admission form, it will ask for a lot of information. See, as you can see here, we have the personal details. I think we've already looked at all of this. So you see, there are lots of information asked in the new admission form, unlike we have under the quick admission. So the new admission and the quick admission works the same way. You can admit a student into the school in a more faster way, whereby the student will not be required to take the exams and then go through all those previous processes. Okay, so next we also have the import student. If a school is currently using, let's say, a school management system that they want to switch to Educare, we have made it possible for them to migrate their students more easier and faster, rather than setting out to register each and every one of them one after the other. So they can just export or have their students in an Excel file. We have a sample document here they can download. So when you click on the download sample file, it will just download an Excel template for you. So all you have to do is to just relate it with your students' information and then just come back here and then upload it into the system. So that is it on admission. Our next video, we're going to talk about, we are going to look at the student list and then the student 360 view. We are going to dive more into the student profile, how to manage a student profile in the system. So thank you so much for being with us till this point, and we shall meet in the next video.